Aloha and welcome. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about multiple exception handlers. In the last section, we were talking about the try and except construct, which we talked about when you're using except alone, it's going to be called a catch-all. It's going to catch all of your errors in there. In reality, we like to use different types of different code for different types of errors so that we can handle specific errors in very specific ways. So the way we do that is we can use multiple except sections. And I'm going to show you an example of that now. So let's go ahead and share our screen and pull up VS Code. And in here, we're going to create a situation where we have an error come up. So let's say we're going to do input, give me a number, and we're going to take, yeah, we need to do something with that. So let's say given number. So we're going to say a given number is whatever they give us. And then we're going to say try, and we're going to say int number equals int of given number. So we're going to first convert it from that string that they give us into an integer. And then we're going to do something. We're going to say, let's say our fraction equals, let's say 1 divided by that number that they just gave us. And then we're going to, well, let's just say next we're going to print the fraction. That sound good? I think so. And then we're going to do an exception here. So we're going to do an except, and we're going to say print something went wrong. So we're using here our catch-all that we had from the last lesson. So when we run this, different things can go wrong here. So we're going to give it a 1. And here it prints out just fine. So it gives us the 1. Actually, okay, yeah. So it's taking 1, dividing it by the number that we gave it, and it's giving us 1.0. It's giving us our floating point, which we kind of expect there. So once it does that, everything went right. But let's say we're going to do it a little bit differently. Let's say we're going to put in 1. We should be getting back a value. It should be a value error, but we're catching it here and we're saying something went wrong. So that's great. And if we were to do something else here, let's say we're to run that, and now we're going to do something that's equally wrong. We're going to put in a 0 there, and the 0 is going to catch it, and it's going to be wrong because we're trying to divide by 0 here. So that's going to go awry. So we can do exceptions specifically to for each type. So let's say for value error. So value error is the situation where we have let's say value error is going to be where we have a different type sent in. So we'll say print that was the wrong type of input. Please use a number. So we're going to do that. And then we have under it the print something went wrong. So that's going to be used not here in the value error. We're going to save that for our catch-all. So we'll put our catch-all in after here, and we'll just use, as we did before, that except. So that's going to catch everything else. So now when we run this again and we run afoul, we're going to put in the 0, or let's start off with just the 1, and let's put that in. And we notice that in here, we're getting that was the wrong type of input. So please use a number. So we've caught that value error, and we've given them a very specific message here. But if we run this and we put in 0 here, we're going to get the something went wrong. So if you'll remember from the previous lesson, there's another type called a zero division error. So we can go in here and say zero division error, and luckily they give that to us there. And we can say print, please use a non-zero integer. And my system is running a little slow here. So we're going to ask for a non-zero integer. And then again, we're going to go and we're going to put in the except. And that's going to handle anything else that happens. But since these are the two main errors that we have, we're going to go ahead, run it again. And we notice that if we put in 0 this time, it will give us a more specific, please use a non-zero integer error. And as you can see, by specifying each specific case, we can give the user a better idea of what went wrong. And that's very helpful for a user to know where they're going wrong. So the more that we can tell them, the better. So that's why it's best to try to put in specifically what type of error they have and what they can do to correct that. So something else happens. Let's say that we did not have either an except division error or an except here. And let's go ahead and comment this code out. Now let's run it and try doing something with a zero division error. We're going to notice something interesting here. We have a very ugly thing happen. This is called an unhandled exception. An unhandled exception, instead of being nicely caught here and handled, and then allowing us to continue on, it's going to throw up its hands and say, oh, I don't know how to handle this. It's unhandled. It's going to throw an error and it's going to end right there. And it does tell you zero division error. It's going to be kind enough to tell you that. And it's going to tell you the line, but your code has not elegantly handled that in some way, and it hasn't continued on. It hasn't cleaned up whatever it was working on or anything like that. If you had open files or were writing a file or something like that, now it's in some kind of an unknown state because it just had to throw up its hands and stop at that point. So it's good to try to do something, use these exceptions so that you can, this exception handling, so that you can more robustly, more elegantly handle things going wrong. So the last thing that I want to show you is that we can group errors together. If we wanted to say that for either one of these conditions, let's say zero division or value error, we just wanted to give the message of something went wrong. If we wanted that to be our, hold on here, if we wanted that to be our message, something went wrong for a value error or the division one, what we can do is we can define it here in a tuple. So we can use a tuple with those two in it. And now if either of these occurs, it's going to give us the something went wrong. And then after that, we could do an except as a catch-all for whatever's left over. Like just question mark. So now if we run this and we give it a 0, it's going to say something went wrong. We're also going to do something like if it was 1, it's going to say something went wrong. So we can group the type of things like that. We can do multiple ones. We put it into a tuple. So the exception would be essentially a tuple of all the different errors that you want to catch. And then you would put all the code that you want to be used when you catch it right down below it. And then you can have a catch-all under that would do anything else. So this is a really nice way of combining things. And this makes it cleaner because you don't want to be repeating code. You don't want to have an except for this that's going to have the same code as the except for the other one, because then you're going to have code in multiple places. If it's really just the same thing, you're introducing the possibility for error. So they allow you to use a tuple and combine all those into one nice little line. So that whole group of code is going to pertain to both of those. So that is essentially the lesson here. If you have any questions about this, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to answer. Send me an email, reach out, and set up a Zoom meeting with me, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, take care.